Hi everyone, I just wanted to leave a little video. Usually I have a short video for each of the chapters, and I noticed when I went in, when I look at in the student view, the chapter videos aren't showing up, and I'm not sure what happened to them. So I'm going to do these again real quick and hopefully help you out a little bit. I'll start here with interest groups in chapter 6. Now remember, it's a good idea to come to the pages area for each chapter and look and get a little bit of information about the chapter. I usually have a paragraph or two that gives you a quick introduction to the chapter, and then you can see here, down here in this part of the screen, it tells you what you need to do for that chapter, so it'll all be there. So we've gone through the first 5 chapters, and in chapter 6 we get into interest groups, which is a little bit different, focusing on how groups get together in our government, in our body politic. And one of the things I wanted to do was take a step back. The book kind of gets into, different types of interest groups and things like that. I wanted to take a step back and talk a little bit about how interest groups form and why they are the way they are, and what public opinion is about them. And I think the easiest way to do that is to talk about the 3 different types or 3 different ideas of interest groups. The first interest group, the first idea or theory of an interest group, is that people just come together and form alliances based on their interest. And this form is known as the pluralist view. And this idea is kind of like, imagine society as a group of circles, and each circle is an interest group, and each interest group vies for its own interests, and in that way the interest of the people work themselves out. And the pluralist view is generally seen as a positive thing, a good thing. Another view is the elitist view. We know through statistics and political science that most people who are active in interest groups are those who are more educated and those who usually have a little bit of wealth or are better off, at least up middle class. Those are the people who tend to be active. So what happens when you have an interest group, think of it as a triangle now. In the elitist view, it's a triangle, and at the top you have a few people who are active. Now this seems to be the case in all different societies and all different governments. You usually have 10% of the people who are active in politics and making decisions and influencing policy. This view is usually seen as a bad thing. It's seen as a few people at the top helping making decisions, lobbying Congress. You have financial interests, business interests, the tobacco lobby, these groups that maybe don't represent society as a whole, but these elitists are influencing policy, and in that sense it's usually seen as a bad thing, but not always. I think I'm not sure if I've talked about Hegel in this class. But it's really important to understand the way he thought, and he actually thought it was kind of a good thing. If people who were educated and were a little better off were leading society, that would be a good thing, because they would be hopefully taught. Hegel had an idea that there would be this universal class of civil servants who would selflessly be guiding society, and that would help move this zeitgeist, he called it. The spirit of the nation or the society forward. In a practical, real world sense, that's easy to say. A lot of people don't really believe in that. You have a lot of people at the bottom of the triangle who are kind of being moved around, and policies being shaped by people they don't know for interests that they don't care about or against. So in that way, it's seen as a bad thing. And then there's another view, and it's kind of a melding of these 2 views, and it's called polyarchy. And polyarchy would be not just circles or triangles, but polyarchy would be a lot of little triangles. It would say, let's face facts, only a few people are usually active in politics, and they will help shape policy. But it's not just one triangle. There's a lot of different triangles, like there were a lot of different circles in the pluralist view. And the polyarchy kind of combines both of these ideas of pluralism and elitism, and I think is a little more accurate. In the real world sense, you do have a small number of people who are actively pursuing changing policy, and then you have the people who might kind of follow them, part of their group, but not really involved. So Those are the three kind of ideas of interest groups. This is actually a pretty interesting chapter if you start breaking it apart. Hi guys, one more thing. I always forget one thing, and this was important. It was kind of the main point of the whole little video here, was that the issue with interest groups is this: are they democratic? You know, one important concept of a republic is that it's democratic, that one vote stands for one person. And the issue with interest groups is that interest groups have more of an influence on policy because they do organize, they lobby, and they influence their representatives. And by doing that, whether through the courts or through their legislators or through the president, and trying to influence the president, have a greater influence over them than the average person. And the thought is that if this happens, are interest groups truly democratic? And in a sense, they're not. But, you know, is it okay that people come together and organize to support, you know, interests? And so that's the question in Chapter 6 I think we're trying to struggle with, is that what is good about interest groups and what is bad about them. And primarily what is bad about them, most people think, is that they are not democratic. They have undue influence over legislatures and courts and the executive branch because of the way they organize and lobby. In fact, when you hear about President Obama and a lot of the things you hear on the news, Obama promised to get away from the lobbies, to get away from what they, special interests, because the people feel that these interests aren't really there for the common person, or they may not be there, or they're exerting greater pressure, greater influence than the average person does with their vote. So I think that's the thing about interest groups that people are having a problem with. So I just wanted to say that, and I'll see you in Chapter 7.